great to see you guys. Thanks for coming here, or you lovely women, not guys. I wanted to start off our workshop today with ArtistsThrive. And ArtistsThrive is a fairly new program that was put together by many, many different people to be able to provide this free professional development platform so people could basically thrive from using it. And so I'm just going to go through the self-assessment tool, and we can branch off from the assessment, especially meeting both of you, Eva and Ali, to be able to, since you're both, it sounds like you're both just kicking it off as far as your careers, and so perfect timing to use this. So the way that this starts is that first, I love the assessment tool because it's really wonderful, at least to me, even for me to take it, because it reminds me of the assets that I have as an artist for myself. So I'm going to start, you have a choice, you can either check off I'm an artist, or I work with artists, or we're going to start with I'm an artist. And they have a few notes to jump in, just to say there are categories, and we can go back and forth, we can bounce around this sort of like, I like multiple choice. I really love multiple choice quizzes. I don't know about you guys, but they're really fun because actually I don't have to write down the answer, but they have the answers there, and it just makes me think because the answers are put in front of me. And I think what's so great is that this is what this tool does. So basically, this represents it's just a form to be able to get you to think and then guide basically where you want to go as an artist. Let's participate together if you don't mind. Okay, so should we do this? All right, so let's start out with the practice section first. So let's check off some things. Maybe we could do one each for both of you since you are going to be different. Who wants to start first?
I could start.
You go, okay, great. So let's start first. So the 4 things first that we're starting with is for practice. I have no time for my art practice. I have sporadic time for it. I prioritize my practice to build it into weekly and annual schedule. I prioritize my practice with studio time, reflection, collaborations, travel, and other activities. What do you think?
I want to be lower down, but I want number 2, I think.
Number 2.
Sporadic time.
What do you think?
I think between 2 and 3.
Really?
You can't have that, can you?
I know that's the bummer of this, is that sometimes there could be like in between answers, right? You know what's interesting? What makes me think in that, I don't know about you both, but the prioritizing the time with studio time reflection. What's interesting about this last one is like, by that being said, it's giving me, even though I don't need permission to think of it differently.
Yeah. It's like an affirmation almost.
Affirmation,
Yeah.
correct. All right, let's go to the second thing. Am I going too fast?
No.
The New Yorker that I am?
No.
All right, working in isolations. Do you work in isolation with no conversation? Oh my gosh. Does that mean we work in a vacuum? Do you connect with other artists, but our conversations do little to feed the practice? Do you feed your practice with rigorous supportive conversations with artists, audiences, thinkers, or do you build rigorous supportive conversations around your practice with other artists? What do you think?
And number 2 again, I think.
Number 2, what do you think?
It's a weird one, but it's kind of between 1 and 3.
Ooh, 1 and 3.
Because when I do my graphic design work, I would totally work alone.
Oh, that's interesting.
But when I'm trying to do my art, I have got a studio space, but I do spend quite a lot of time on my own unless I bump into someone and then I might discuss the project. And sometimes that does bring up ideas.
Oh, so there was overlap.
Yeah.
See, that's interesting because I think that that overlap is, I think, true to every artist. Wonder what you both think about this. That I found that artists, we wear multiple hats, like I spoke about last night, And sometimes that flow of conversation happens in different places. It may not even happen, with artists. It may happen or in graphic design. It may happen with somebody who's interested in politics, for example. What do you think?
Yeah, completely. I had a conversation recently with someone that was my mum's friend. I've not seen her before, and she brought up some ideas that I wasn't expecting to. But
What were those ideas, do you think?
well, she mentioned about some other artists that have worked with John before, and then I went away and looked at them, and that's kind of informed, or giving some more context to what the project that I'm working on. So.
Interesting. It's interesting. I think it's more about us being open to those possibilities.
Yeah.
Join us.
Hello.
Lisa's here. Now we are doing a self-assessment. This is what we're doing, which is on this website, which is so fun too. And what I love about this website, this ArtistsThrive website, is that you can go back and do this yourself and several times, and it helps sort of analyze, thinking about what we have to offer as artists, what our needs and our wants are, what direction do we want to go. Especially all three of you, I think, are really, as I mentioned to Ali and Eva, really taking off with your work, or committing. Okay, so I'm going to check off number 2 for that, since Eva was with that number 2. Okay, let's go to number 3. Oh my gosh. Are we always exhausted and stressed out?
I used to be.
Oh my gosh, okay, whoops, the internet is like not having it. Okay.
Sick about.
You know what it is? He told me it's unpredictable. Okay. Exhausted, stretched out whenever my schedule gets intense. I schedule downtime into my day, week, year, and I foster a culture of balance among those I work with, insisting on realistic timelines. What do you think, all three of you, about time? Can we talk about time a little bit?
Yeah. I think I'm between 3 and 4. I used to be between 1 and 2.
Ooh.
And then I discovered a really amazing book called The Now Habit, How to
Oh.
Overcome Procrastination.
Oh my gosh, the now habit.
Guilt-free play, The Now Habit.
I need to write this down.
You
The
need to
now
write this
habit.
down. And it's a book that teaches you to schedule activities based on scheduling fun activities first, so that your lunches, dinners, swimming, even for instance, all in your schedule, the work isn't. Because it gives you a realistic idea of how many hours are actually available for work. So you haven't got the fantasy like, oh, I've got all weekend, I'll get it done. Oh, I forgot my parents are visiting. So you see, actually, I've only got 2 hours in the morning, and I've only got 3 hours in the afternoon or whatever. And it means you commit to your regimen. And that book was so helpful. So.
Very good. So you bounced from the 1 to possibly the 3. What do you think, Lisa and Ali? What do you think?
Do you want to go first, Ali?
I think 2 and 3.
There's a lot of in-betweens in these.
No.
I've noticed that. And you know what? It's actually, it's actually very common. I mean, I actually love the tangents from the assessment. What do you think, Lisa?
I'm 3.
3.
Because
Ooh.
I meditate and
Ooh.
I do gardening, but everything else, so I'd like to spend more time doing art, but I do very little art because I have little time, but I have one session a week where I go to a life drawing class, so that's a 2.5 a week definite that I managed to do. I would love to do more, but I can't physically at the moment. But I do make sure that I do other things that will stop me going insane.
I think I'm there in insanity already. Should we do then 2 or 3? I think we'll do this now as a group if that's all right with you.
What are you out of interest?
Say again?
Which one are you?
I'm at definitely 1 right now.
Okay.
But as I don't know if you heard me say, I'm looking at where gyms are in my neighborhood. And when I get back tomorrow or Friday, I'm going to sign up for a gym and make sure it's a priority. So,
Incidentally, there's one down the road.
is there one down the road? Should I go there this afternoon? That might be really good. I don't know if I have time this afternoon, but I'll lure my way into a gym on Friday. But I mean, part of this is too this great website, which I really, really love, and the fact that we can just access it freely, which is amazing, is that this is a reminder for me as a flag to say, you know what, these are clear options for artists that generally how we live our lives, right? And it may not be so good. I mean, I feel it's really interesting how number 3 from all 3 of you is an option. I'm learning from all of you, like, oh my gosh, I've got to get to 3. So thank you for that. Okay, I don't keep a calendar. I keep a calendar outside of commitments and jobs. I keep a realistic calendar that includes artistic work, administrative time, and a cushion in case projects take longer than expected. And then I align project timelines with my larger plans with relevant funding and presentation schedules. Number 2, good.
In fact, you've got one that's like 2, not in between.
Right, okay, good. What do you think? Number 2.
Yeah, number 2 is.
Really? Wow.
I don't always write them all down, but I keep a calendar. I sometimes don't write some of them down.
That's good. Okay, I do number 4.
Mm-hmm.
So, but my whole life is holistic, you know, in the way that it's just completely, it's number 3 and 4, essentially. So that's interesting. Okay, so now I'm going to go to the next one. Right. Okay, you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Or should we go to the results of this first? Do you want to try that first? Okay. All right, so now what happens is that essentially you can take these and then what happens is from here you can go and see stories and resources that are based on this. So if you see all the stories, do we thrive, survive, struggle, or do we give up? No way, we're not giving up, right? And then let's see if we go to, there's so many things that we can see here, but you can see it's really mostly of the struggle here. So let's go to the struggle stories here. And you can then, you just go and there's tons of stories through the whole thing that we're adding to, but there's 3 here. And there's one, for example, who we recorded, and let's take a listen, should we?
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if we can get sound on this.
Should be okay.
Here's the internet. Sorry, guys. Sorry. But he told me that this might be an issue that might come up today.
My name is Louden Rodriguez-Casanova.
And you're here in Miami?
Yes, I'm here in Miami.
So tell us.
Oh,
Doesn't like full screen.
doesn't like full screen?
Watch it small.
No, the internet's not fast enough. You're not really going to be able to stream it.
All right, let's do it this way. Is that all right?
I would have gone.
But wait a minute, let's just see.
It's going to, so buffers, it's going to be a little bit, 5 seconds worth, and then do this. So it makes it unwatchable without a normal internet speed.
Sorry about that, you guys. So what I would say is from this, then you can go back and listen to this, and then there are different, which is really cool. Like these people basically answering your questionnaire. Isn't that cool? So then he would be able to answer, reflect what, and then so both of them are able to talk about they're answering a question that reflects what you just I'm sorry, I'm struggling now with this. I can't even talk because I'm like with the internet. Okay, so maybe we can go back to, this is fun. Should we go back to the beginning? Okay, so let me just get out of this. Okay, so you have those. Now let's go to the next section. So when the internet is good for you guys, if you don't mind. All right, so let's go. Ready? Is this okay for you to continue doing this? Yeah. Okay, in my art world, which means everybody has their own, I allow assumptions and biases about cultural heritage, race, gender, class, and or sexual orientation to silence my voice. I hope it doesn't. I ensure my voice is heard in specific spaces by partners. I ensure my voice is heard in all spaces, or I work with others to raise up all artists' voices. So basically, about community. What do you think?
I think number 2.
Number 2, you ensure that your voice is heard.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, too.
Okay.
It would be nice to be able to be for.
Yeah.
It would be nice to be for and work with others to raise up all artists' voices. That's what I do.
Ooh.
So I think I raise my arms here because I want you to embody this too. I think it's such a good thing. I think one way that can happen is that the first thing is that we all just do what we do, is that we are practicing artists, first of all. And proud of it. And maybe if we see somebody like in your life drawing, for example, and maybe the other day I was at the Metropolitan Museum of Art and I was walking around and saw some artists drawing and copying, as you were talking about before, Eva was talking about copying other artists' works, copying some artists' works. And some other artists came over and spoke with that artist, and instead of the artist who was drawing, pushing them away, he was like, come in, let's talk about it, have a conversation. That little bit is one way of, what is that called when boats float at the top? Having the boats, or having people rise together.
Buoyancy?
Say again?
You mean buoyancy?
Yes, buoyancy, or just having them float, or people,
Rising tide lifts all boats.
thank you. Anyway, just that's a little small thing. Okay, let's go on, sorry. When I advocate or speak up, I do it alone. I have a circle of artists and partners who sometimes advocate together. I have a strong growing network of artists and partners who gather regularly for dialogue and advocacy, and I advocate so thoughtfully and consistently that that I'm sought out as a thought leader. What do you all think? What do you do? I mean, each one of you does something in advocation just by what you do every day, even in your jobs. What do you think?
I mean, I kind of want to say 4 because I'm a notorious advice giver.
Oh, there you go!
Students come to me and are like, right, here's what you should do. Here's a self-help book.
Oh,
Here's a thing you can do. So I kind of want to say 4, although I didn't think I would be 4, but I'm not really.
Maybe you recognize yourself as that, and that's a good thing.
A little bit.
Very good. How about with me?
I don't know if I can answer this question.
No, I think that just what you're doing today, the planning of what you're doing today, is a huge thing. Even though it's your job, you are so lovely and wonderful in how you're doing your job. You don't even have to do it in the way that you're doing it. So in that case, if you were to put that lens on, what would you say?
3.
There you go. And how about you?
1.
1.
Might even be -1. I don't know.
Oh, what? There is no -1.
It's a hard one though.
It is a hard one, right? What does it make you think about when you read these options for this?
Things we should or could be doing.
Correct. Yeah, I think that is what it prompts, right? Like, I think what's so good about this assessment is that enables us to think about possibilities. So can I then get a summary between all of us? Can we say 3?
Yeah.
Maybe something for you to work. Maybe something for you to work towards.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I'd like to work towards
I think it's a good idea to just consider for a moment the flip side, which is isolation, and not having the opportunity to do that, which is something that obviously is a concern for you.
Right. And so, how is that a concern for you? Tell me.
I think it probably stems you could go right back to like the insecurity of I didn't study any of this stuff at uni, but then after that kind of I find I'm still struggling with calling myself an artist away from graphic design, because I don't know if I think, like you were saying yesterday, I'm kind of looking for validation that, yeah, I am that.
Can I just say, can all of us give her validation right now?
Yeah, thank you.
You're an artist.
Yeah, I know. I mean, also, like, I think that the measure by which, I mean, is it, for example, I was talking to someone the other day, a very good friend of mine, and I was saying to him, I imagined him as a pope. I said, oh, I can just see you with your wand. And then my imagination, of course, bless you, as an artist was going wild with that tap of the wand. And now I just have that visual right now. Is that we all wait for the tap of the wand or something to say that? What makes us be artists, really? I mean, that's a big, big question. And I would just say that if you're creating work and you're making work, and it's part of a vocabulary, visual vocabulary, meaning that, for example, the Beatles, right? If you've heard Let It Be, I know they're from this country, right? Or so are the Rolling Stones, right? I think everybody knows, but those two bands have different sounds, right? They have different voices, right? So does Louise Bourgeois, who's an artist that, if you don't know, you can look her up, or Pablo Picasso, or Van Gogh, have you mentioned. So all different voices, those are all different, vocabularies. If you are making work and you're, whatever that might mean, and I'm using those quotes, I would imagine that then it's becoming an artistic endeavor by which artist is in that work.
Yeah.
So I don't think that it comes, I think we all try to seek validation from different sources, right? But I don't necessarily think that there's that wand that out of the sky that taps us and then suddenly we become an artist.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. I taught in Palm Beach, Florida, which is a very wealthy community on the east coast of the United States. And some women that I worked with were over 60 years old, and they positioned themselves in a form where, meaning that they had a canvas up and an easel, all the things on the outside that would project who an artist is, but had yet to actually make that work. So it could be arguable, are they really an artist? Because they may look like one, or they may be setting themselves up as one, but if they're not really walking the walk as far as the vocabulary that they're building, probably may not. But who am I to say if they are not? So I'm hoping you leave here and know that if do you feel like you're making that work?
Yes.
Okay, well, there you go. So in that case, to me, probably 3. I'm going to go back to 3 again.
Okay. I'll work on it.
I know. Will you work on it? Okay. Here's the last one of this section. I have no resources or opportunities to share with other artists. Really? I don't know. I share resources and opportunities with a small network of artists like me. I share resources and opportunities broadly with critical awareness of inequities in the arts. There are a lot of inequities. And I help partners and gatekeepers share the resources and opportunities with artists. What do you think? What do you think the answer is for you?
I'm 2.
You're number 2.
Like to be 3.
You share but would like to be 3, right? I love this, like I said, this assessment because there's goals in this essentially. What do you think, Lisa?
So I think that because I do meet with a group of artists on a regular basis, I'm 2. But I think that through this process of setting up your event and giving an opportunity, I'm probably, on this occasion, I have been a 3.
Yes! And Allie?
I think 2 and 4.
Wow! Do you think that is so awesome? Is that merging 2 of the worlds 2? Do you think like that?
Yeah, it's because I'd say 2 relate more to actual art things, but then I've just become a trustee at Hackspace in Nottingham, which is.
Ooh, did you want to know that?
Do you know about Hackspace?
Could you talk about Hack Space?
Yeah.
Hackspace.
Hackspace.
H-A-C-K?
Yeah,
Okay, and then space, 2 words?
it's one word.
1 word.
You
Yeah.
need to know that you're one of the
Yes, come to me.
Can you tell us about this organization?
Okay. Yeah, it's basically based in Snelton, but they have them all over the world now. It's just community based. They've got resources together, based on borrowing, whatever. There's a whole branch of tools there, like different power tools that you can use, like woodworking stuff. They've got a laser cutter that you can be inducted on. They've got craft stuff, and then they've also got, they get donations, so they've got quite a lot of different resources that you can just use, like card, paper, like cottons, whatever, like loads of stuff. It's a big corporate resource, really.
Wow.
Sounds
great.
So yeah,
Congratulations.
600 members in Nottingham at the moment.
What?
Yeah.
Wow, we'll have to talk later. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's a really cool space.
Lisa, I'm
How
sorry.
many sort of turn up on a...
Well, it's open 24 hours a day.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, there's no staff, so
You just go in and do your own thing?
yeah.
24 hours a day?
Yeah, you can go in there at any time.
And it's like a free resource? Is it?
You pay what you can afford,
Yeah.
basically on a monthly basis. Try and keep it to, you know, if you're going to use the space a lot, then pay a little bit more. Basically.
So if you use it one day a week, you pay less?
Yeah, but there's not really any rules on it. I mean, when they've worked out everything, if you paid £10 a month, then you'd be paying definitely your share, but you can pay less. You can pay £1 a month if that's what you can afford.
I want to go there today.
Yeah, okay.
Sounds great.
That's amazing. I have to
It's
add that.
a drop-in, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's
Wednesday
a-
evening. It's drop-in.
Wednesday evening tonight. There's a drop-in.
Yeah, they can show you around. Or
Oh, I'm going.
Okay.
Can we go?
Where's that door? Because I can find the door.
You know where the backlit door is? It's like the other side of the road.
It's amazing. So
Big Nottingham.
Nottingham has, it's amazing. Like I could spend like weeks here and still not get to see everything.
There is a lot.
It's incredible
It is a very creative
Yeah.
city.
and fantastic.
So as part of the being a trustee, what I'm planning to do, because I've only just been involved like literally yesterday, I'm setting up, trying to set up workshops with the people that are involved with the different areas of the space. So anyone that feels a little bit scared about picking up a power tool for the first time can sort of, you know,
Oh, that's good.
can hold their hand so they get used to it.
See, that's a good overlap now between your graphic design and your artistic practice. Now, what time is that walkthrough?
I think you can go from 6.
That is interesting because just you talking about that, it seems very natural, right? Just even how you said it. So it doesn't seem like that number 4 is so far reaching, but should we say just for the majority here, number 2?
Yeah.
Everybody? All right, let's go. I love seeing the results. Oh, so between struggle and survive, so maybe we go this way to survive. And we're not going to be able to do, okay, so then these are videos from different people that talk about, this one's not even up and running yet, sorry for the internet, but then you can go back and hear these artists, and what's interesting is Megan Sinclair is from Los Angeles, and this artist, and Zena is from Alaska, and I don't know who this artist is. So anyway, so it's really interesting. You can hear their comments, and I'm sorry about the internet. We're not going to be able to do that. Should we go back? We've got 3 more sections, I think. Isn't this fun?
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. Let's see. I just want to try to go back. All right, planning. This is a big thing. Every time I do this assessment, it seems like this one is the one. Ready? We're gonna dig into this. Okay, I see the future as scary. trying to think about it. Whew. I like the power one in between because the power is sort of like a pause of the big picture. Then the planning and capacity seems to be more of a in the minutia. I make plans for projects I'm working on. I've written plan with long-term goals relevant to my practice and mission. I have a sustainable written plan. Oh my. That I revisit regularly and share with partners. What do you think? This has to do with organization too, I think. What do you think?
2 for me.
2. What do you think? Uh-oh.
I'm struggling to answer this one. I did the Myers-Briggs personality test.
Oh my, how did you do?
One thing that it said repeatedly is, this person is bad at planning. This person is bad at long-term planning. Bad at long-term financial and other planning. Okay, get it.
Yes, but you're here today, so you must have made some plans to get here, right?
Right? I made plans for projects I'm working on.
Right, so you're on 2 there.
Yeah.
What do you think, Lisa?
Yeah, I think I'm 2 as well. Yeah.
So it's interesting. I love the second 2 because they talk about written plans. Have you both ever thought about, or 3 of you have ever thought about that?
I have had a go at doing
You have, and how does that work for you?
I had a go at writing, kind of visualizing a longer term plan. Like, in 5 years I want this.
Yeah.
I want this, I want this, I want this.
How do you
achieve this.
How do you think that might, I mean, writing something can mean many things. We write it on a pad of paper, we can put it in our phones, we can even say it in our phones, we can, as we record ourselves, or just documentation, right? Or typing it in our computer. But how do you think that writing could be, something that can be really beneficial? What do you think? Allie, what do you think?
I think it puts it down and you can kind of work out what you're actually doing with the project. Makes it concise and sort of brings it all together.
How about you, Lisa? Any thoughts?
It's something that I don't do, but I'd like to do it because I think that it gives your ideas, it makes them concrete and solid, and it gives them an actual. You're giving birth to them, really, aren't you? When you're writing them down, you're committing to something just by writing it down. So I think I remember somebody giving me a statistic years ago that about 10% of the population plan for the future, and of those 10%, 99% achieve it or something like that. So it's obviously a really good tool to have in your practice. And I should do it, but I don't at the moment.
Well, I think that the reason why I'm asking it is what I have found is that when people write things down, it faces them. Sort of like this mirror, like what you're saying, it's concrete. And I do think, like Lisa's saying, it's a good practice, a good thing to do. I think to go from 2 to 3 is important because it makes this solid sort of structure that I think that, for me, it always helps me. Even, you know what's interesting is that when I write things down, and I set planning, and I'm going to share with you my database. You ready for this? This is like insane. So I have this database that's called ACT, which is really used for PC, ACT, and it keeps all my contacts together, but it also enables me to write notes. So what I can do, like for example, let me see if I can get some notes here. Notes for. Nope, that's okay. Something that I'll go here. This is a tangent, but I just want to show you how it makes a big difference. Okay, so for example, whenever I send something out, I'll then write a note, for example, and then some of the things I have shown. Since this is recorded, I don't really want people to see other people's contact information, so I'm being careful as to who I'm showing here. But there are different people I've sent things to. Oh, it's the same. Sorry, I'm gonna pick another one. Hold on. Okay, so like here's somebody who I've sent a lot of things to, and then sometimes I've kept old notes from before. And what does that do? To me, it just shows sort of a history and track record. That's what writing things down. But also it can mirror a calendar. So a good calendar, so like this is, oh, that's in November. Let's not go that far. But like a good calendar can really keep things connected, even in my personal life. But like it makes it that then my life situation is, everything is a job. So I guess what I'd say too is that for me, a job as an artist and having everything written down, even the ideas or my calendar or contacts, it all becomes one umbrella. And to me, it serves me very well because then it has this, it's more holistic and connected. I even put when I get my nails done. Look at that. So anyway, that's sort of like, I think is very interesting. The writing part, I think, is really important. And I think it keeps, I love that word concrete that you're saying. Our ideas, the projects, calendar, contacts, all of it together, makes me, at least make me feel like it being all together is the whole life as an artist. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Was that too overwhelming?
No, that's great.
Okay. All right, so I'm gonna check number 2. Can we do that? Okay, ready for the next one? That was a longer one, sorry. All right, I believe I face insurmountable barriers and bias because of my cultural background, race, class, gender, and or sexual orientation. May I ask just a personal question? Would you all consider yourselves women?
Yes.
It says your gender. So if we all, would we or would you, and all of us, or as our gender?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so if we say that our gender is that, do we face those barriers? Right, that's one category from the gender part. Just asking, however you consider yourself, that seems to be like a common thread in many, many cultures too, where those things cross over, certainly race and class. Regularly confront barriers and bias and struggle to continue my work in inequitable environments or in an inequitable environment. Have you do you have an expanding network of partners who may understand you and your work? And do you work to lower the barriers artists face, like yourselves? And do you advocate for equity and inclusion being in community with like-minded artists and partners and pushing to change those inequitable structures. What do you think? Toughie. This has to do with capacity more than I think planning.
I think I'm probably 3.
Yeah.
I'd like to be 4. Because I think if I have barriers and bias, that's not because of my cultural background, race, etc. It's because of me and my hang-ups. If I have any barriers, so I'm quite fortunate to just have mainly those ones. And if there are other ones I haven't felt, then
Interesting. Interesting. What do you all think, Allie? What do you think?
3.
3?
Yeah.
Now, it's interesting because Eva brought up the internal barriers, right? Which is I think every artist puts those up. Allie, you're shaking your head there. And what would you say as a new trustee of this organization, wearing multiple hats here? What would you say? Do you think that that's true too?
I think, yeah, personal barriers can be confidence.
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 What are those personal barriers? Let's talk about that. What do you
taking
think?
myself seriously.
What do you think, Lisa?
Well, I suppose that's the crux for me, and the reason I can't answer it because I don't take myself seriously as an artist. I do art when I can, and that's it.
But do you think that, I think also, I've always said this, is that just because we have, quote, I hate this, and I'll say it and I say it with cringing, day jobs, because there is no such thing, I think, as a day job, because then that makes us, just because we have a job doesn't make us any less of an artist, right? So is it that we're only artists when we are the making of the work? It's very romantic, right? Isn't it our ideas we carry with us? Isn't that relevant to our existence? Like, I had this person, Allison, who is such a wonderful thought leader and amazing. She started this professional development for Creative Capital years ago, and Creative Capital is an organization that's based in New York. And she once told me, and I know I'm paraphrasing her, and I'm not saying it exactly the way that she would eloquently say, but she once told me, she said to me, Sharon, artists have often more than many others, if they walk into a room and don't even talk, they carry it with them. They have so much more. I know I'm not saying it exactly how she's saying it, but so much more to offer and to give than other people, because they have many things, right? We have that creativity within us. We have these ideas, ways of thinking out of the box. We have many other attributes that I spoke about last night of starting things from nothing, right? What else did I say? I said failure. You can bounce back from failure like nobody else. So if you were to think in that way, so now pulling you back in here, what would you say that are some of the barriers then as an artist?
The only barrier is myself, I suppose.
Self. Do you think it's time to?
Yeah.
You think that's it? Okay, we're going to get to that in a moment. But all right, so what should I check off for you all?
What did you two say?
I think I'm happy with 3 because that question is about barriers of cultural background, race, class, gender. And if I do face those barriers, I think there are worse ones that I do not face, that I don't have. So
Okay.
I think I have an expanding network of partners who understand me now. I work to lower barriers.
It seems like all of you have that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll go 3. Let's go to the next one. I'm just a little worried about this. My computer's not moving forward so much because we're on the internet. Sorry. I know it's going to bounce in a second. 1 second. Yeah, I knew that was going to happen. I have to be patient here. Sorry. Oh no. No.
the arrows would it work?
Great
More
figure.
arrows, yeah.
All right.
Wow, this was a big one.
I believe in success will either happen to me or it won't. I define success according to what others think. I define success and impact for myself, specific to my practice, my mission, and my communities. I honor and celebrate the self-defined success of others. 4. What do you guys think? Women. Who's saying that? That's like an old term that I grew up in South Philadelphia, and that's a thing that I was raised with, this common generality. Anyway, what do you think? Sorry. Lisa?
I'm definitely not.
Definitely part.
I'm definitely not 1 or 2.
Good!
Definitely I'm a 3.
Okay.
And well, I guess I'm 4 as well.
Oh, good. What do you think, Helen?
I feel like 4 is separate from the others.
Interesting. You think 4 is separate.
Yeah.
Now, how do you think it's separate?
Because the other ones are about yourself.
Correct.
Ones.
4 is like I don't even bother defining success in me.
Right. I think the 4 would be, and this is good feedback for also the let's see, let me write this down. Planning capacity. I think that it would be good to include ourselves in that and celebrate. And I'm thinking that may be that answer. So if let's say that is where we click 4, where we check 4.
Yeah.
Allie. Well, you do. You have to. You're by being a trustee, you're doing that.
Yeah. Okay.
And also, Lisa, reminding your job, you're doing this every day.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Good to have somebody remind you of these things. All right. Here we go. Oh my God. Do you do everything yourself? Do you get help when you're desperate? Have a broad team of partners to support my art practice and your career? Do you create systems of support for yourself and other artists, building community and capacity? What do you think?
2.
You get help when you're desperate? Okay, what do you both think? Eva?
Between 2 and 3 depends. I'm not wholly in 3, I'm not wholly in 2, but I think maybe 3. Broad team of partners to support. I don't like to ask them, but I have them.
I think you need to ask if you need,
Yeah.
right? That would be good.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I guess I'm a 4 because if I think about, holistically, like you made me do a moment ago, in my day job and in my aspiring interest as an artist, I look at the whole thing holistically. I'm a 4.
Okay, awesome. So how do we compromise here of these between 3 and 4, I think? Is it not between all of you?
I think I could come up to 3.
How about we just compromise the 3, because I think the 4 includes the 3. What do you think, Lisa?
Yeah.
Good, I'm glad you're thinking holistically in this way. All right, let's go down. If I don't know how to go, or rather do something, I give up. Oh, I'm so depressed when I read that. Like, come on.
Whoops, it's jumped again.
Jumped again. When I need a new skill, I try to figure it out myself. I regularly learn new and relevant skills, and I know where to find resources and trainings locally and nationally. I pass on to other artists the resources and skills that help me. What do you think?
I'm 4.
4.
I'm 3.
I think I go 4.
Well, in 3, I think you're 3 and 4, because today you're enabling people to do number 4. So I'm going to do 4 because of majority, but just to qualify that, if that's all right with you.
Yeah,
Do you mind if I'm being pushy here? It's not very English. Okay, last one. I wait for opportunities and resources to come to me and say yes to everything. I pursue opportunities and resources that artists around me pursue and say yes to almost everything. I seek out new opportunities and resources and pursue only those relevant. And I create and share new opportunities and resources for artists. What do you think you all do? And then this is another one where I think what's so great about this is that this is like a goal section, because when I read this, it reminds me that I can create and share new opportunities and resources by just seeing that on there. Like ticking that off means that I'm actually going to be doing more of that.
I think 3 to 4.
3 or 4, what do you think?
3 to 4.
Yeah, I would agree.
So I'll do 3 since I see some hesitance there. I'm going to say this though, the second half of what we'll do from this assessment is that I'm going to talk about goals and creating opportunities for ourselves, as I mentioned yesterday. So I think that this is a good lead into that. All right, let's go to the results. I love the results. Ooh.
Ooh, we're moving.
Going up!
All right, so we're just different. So let's go to the Artists Thrive then, stories. If I can get there. Do we need some coffee?
I'm fine, sorry.
We only have like a few minutes. So then Matthew Delegate, which is so great, he's an artist who talks about how he reflects his values. Is there any way we can hear this, do you think? Or is it going to stream?
No, you could click play, okay, and then just talk about something else for a couple minutes.
I like that we have professional advice here.
I just think it's so good to have other voices other than myself, because I feel like for me, myself it's not enough. And I also think that one reason why I'm giving these resources
My
after
name is
this.
Matthew Delegate, and we're here at the Anchorage Museum in Anchorage, Alaska.
Awesome. And why?
Oh, this is probably not
Well, let's see if this 10.
If you click on the little wheelie tool thing next to us as video, is there an opportunity to just maybe hear it without the video? Yeah, the one next to that, that's it.
this.
Yeah, the settings. Maybe you can go for quality, lowest quality. Oh no, it's already on lowest quality.
It's on lowest quality. So I'm going to stop.
That was going to be so
So you know
clever.
what you do, hit pause,
Things to catch up.
and let it catch up and buffer, and then see if it continues to buffer. See how it's moving, that gray thing, the gray line? So you can talk, and if it gets halfway through, then you press play, and it'll play up to where it's buffered.
I don't think we can spend this time waiting for Matthew. You guys will have to. It's a bummer.
So press play again, see how it works.
Are you here? I am here in Anchorage on a book tour with Sharon Louden, and part of a group of artists and writers that are touring the state that are offering professional development workshops for artists in 4 cities. We're in Ketchikan, in Juneau, in Anchorage, and then in Fairbanks.
Are your goals dry?
All right.
Okay, so no, just keep.
No, I'm going to go back to our thing because we just don't have time to wait for this.
I suggest checking Matthew's video out. He's so articulate.
So good. And I was hoping that we could do that, but it's not feasible with this internet. I feel like we're in Alaska right now because in Alaska they have terrible internet.
You're in Nottingham.
Yes. All right, money. Ready? I try not to think about money. That's me. I think about money whenever it's an emergency. I make long-term financial plans. I make long-term financial plans and check it with my finances weekly.
Yeah, so we have to work on that, Ms. Louden.
I'm just running this, but I thought I would be honest. All right, so what do you all do? Now, this is really important, money. You know, artists think about money all the time. This is also a really good thing for us to think about money as far as, you know, what we should be thinking about, right? What do you think? Lisa?
I don't plan money.
So you try not to think about it?
I don't think about it now.
What do you all
I
do?
don't think about money. I think about it far too much, and I think I'm trying to get better in like the journey of sorting out the money. But I'm a casually employed person and an artist, so the whole I make long-term financial plans can't really. So I'm sort of in between a bunch of these.
Okay.
I'm on the I want to before.
I do too. In another life.
I'm trying. I'll be there.
Good. What do you think, Allie?
I try not to think about money, but because I'm self-employed,
Yes.
sometimes I feel like if the job comes up, I need to do it over my, you know, kind of at the moment unpaid other arts.
No, but remember, you're not any less of an artist, right?
Yeah.
Okay. At least that's my view. And I actually think it's very true. I mean, I'm not just saying that. I mean, from the books that I have here, you can read in all of those essays. It doesn't matter. But anyway, just to admit the mindset. But I hear what you're saying. It's like you have to think about it, right? Money is survival.
Yeah.
But what would you say in answering in the survey says?
I don't find it an important thing to me. I try not to think about it, to be honest.
So which of these four would you tick, what do you think? Lisa?
I'm one.
Me too.
Yeah.
I think I have to go for 3 because that's where I am trying to get more.
Okay, so
Where I am.
you have to do that internally, and then since 2 out of the 3 of you, I'll do 1.
Yeah.
Is that all right?
Yeah.
Okay, so next one. Ready? I donate my art and my time constantly, and there's little or no discussion about it. I'm sometimes paid for my art, but I'm uncomfortable discussing fees or prices. I ask for a living wage and can say no when offered less than that. Okay? And I'm paid a living wage, and I pay fellow artists a living wage and advocate for fair pay. What do you think? Join us.
Hey.
We are taking a survey together from this ArtistsThrive website, and this is about self-assessment, which branches off of so many other things, and we're using it as a foundation, so join the conversation. So we are talking about money right now, which is a hot topic, right? And I'll just go over the 4 things and maybe just feel it out. Oh, and what was your name again? I donate my art and my time constantly, and there's little or no discussion about it. I sometimes get paid for my work, but I'm uncomfortable discussing fees and prices. I ask for a living wage and say no when offered less than that, and I'm paid a living wage. I pay fellow artists a living wage and advocate for fair pay. What do you think?
1 to 2.
1 to 2.
2 to 3.
2 to 3. We have an overlap here.
3 to 4.
3 to 4! Can you discuss how you do that?
Well, I ask for money. I've got comfortable asking for money.
Good.
Because everyone misunderstands and goes, oh, sorry, I thought you were going to do that for me for free.
People do.
If I want to put my foot down, I say, no, I'm sorry. You definitely said you could pay me, but this is how much.
Good!
Sorry if that wasn't clear. I'll make it clear next time. This is interesting. But I can say no, or I can say no, because if someone asks me to do something for free and I think, I don't really want to work for free, but I do want that project to happen, and actually we'll get me making some art, okay, I'll say yes to that, I'll do that for free. And I have paid artists a living wage for stuff. I tried to buy paintings from artists that I know. I buy homewares from designers and glass artists and people who I know. I buy their stuff. I make sure that that's the Christmas presents, not stuff from John Lewis.
Great.
And I have hired an artist to work at my book party and draw pictures.
Oh, good.
And I'm looking forward to paying a bunch of artists at my wedding to do stuff. So I
You're
want
getting
to
married.
pay artists.
You're getting married. Oh, congratulations. But I love that idea, taking an event and employing artists, using that,
Yeah.
in this case, your wedding, which is lovely,
Yeah.
to be able to employ artists. It's wonderful.
Like you need to buy Christmas presents, buy them from an artist.
I love that. Great idea. Lisa.
So I've never sold any of my art or tried.
That's all right.
And because I do have a job, I guess I'm going to go with them before, and I also do like to pay fellow artists a living wage as well, so I am an advocate of fair pay. But also, I have got an opportunity coming up to donate some art because there's an art auction in aid of a charity coming up for the people that I draw with on a Monday night, so I'll put something in for that.
Oh, that's fabulous. So should we say 3 as the overlap? What do you think, Allie? Are you comfortable with that?
It's yours now.
For me, I don't think I can go higher than 2 on that one at the moment.
So could you maybe yield towards that effort?
Yes,
All right.
definitely.
Confidence.
Yeah.
Confidence, Allie, let's do this.
Yes.
After you leave here, you're gonna have like these muscles with you. All right, so I have no idea, sorry, what rates to charge. I have a sense of what I can charge based on what others have told me. I know what my life costs annually and what an hour, day, and week of my time costs. And I know, I know my rates. I make strategic mission-based choices to ask for more or less. Now this has a lot to do with pricing, even of artwork or anything related to how we live. What do you think as far as these questions in regard to rates? And also this has to do with value in a way. So I would love to get into that a little bit. Any thoughts though on ticking off which one of these is your feeling?
My gut feeling is I'm a 3.
You know what your life costs annually.
Yeah, but I'm starting to think about 4 in terms of, but only because other people have prompted me to, rather than me going, well, maybe I should ask for more. There are people going, actually, what you're doing is really cheap, you need to ask for more. So when I do workshops and things like that. And not having seen what other people charge for a similar thing, because it's kind of new, it's hard to know. Really can't picture. But yeah, definitely, I would say I'm a 3.
Allie?
Well, in terms of my graphic design work, I kind of know what to charge for certain things. In terms of my art, it's probably I've got no idea. I know you can do your formulas with how long you've spent on it and that kind of thing, but I don't know if that.
But do you know generally what your life costs annually?
No. Probably not. No.
Do you want to know that?
Look it up now.
Just thought.
Yeah.
What do you think, Eva?
I'm sort of between 2 and 4 because I don't know what my life costs anyway. I charge based a little bit on what others have told me, but I feel like I kind of know my rates too. I know what to charge.
Lisa?
Well, I think that I'm 3 because I know what I get paid and what an hour of my time costs in my job. And Ali, you do too. Why should your art be any different?
I think that's a good question.
Yes.
Very good,
It's a
Lisa.
question line up with that.
Yeah.
ticking off 3 because it's in between. All right. Some personal questions now. I'm in debt with no plan to get out of it. I have a plan for paying off debt. I'm paying off debt and putting money into savings. I have 6 months of living expenses and savings for emergencies and opportunities. What's your reality? 2. You have the plan. Lisa, what's your reality?
3.
Good. Or bad, or whatever. It's no, I'm not qualifying anything. Anybody else?
I'm a 4, but I also have some invisible student debt, which doesn't matter because if you're earning below a certain amount in the UK, it doesn't come out for your paycheck. So it doesn't matter until you earn enough that you can make a payment.
Hi, come and join us. How are you? We're having a fun, I think fun quiz. Grab a chair, just watch the camera. How's it going?
Yes, good, thank you.
That would be good. Does everybody, what was your name again?
So I'm Suzanne.
Suzanne, everybody say hello to Suzanne. You all know each other?
Hi.
This is Eva, Lisa, Allie, and Debs. Okay, we're just taking a survey here, really prompting questions about assessment of ourselves as artists that then go off into tangents as a warm-up for the next, for really talking about opportunities, creating opportunities, goal setting, etc. And there's a lot of goal setting in here. Would you all agree with that? All right, so what do you think, Allie?
Well, it kind of, I don't have any debt, but just not really ever got into credit cards or anything like that. But equally, I don't save any. Basically, hand to mouth sort of comes in, goes out.
What do you think, Debs? Oh, you already answered, right?
Yeah, so I have a plan. I just need that plan to work.
Lisa, did you answer?
I answered yeah.
Yeah, I just got, and Eva, you answered, right. Now, would you like to take a go of this? So,
Yeah.
we're talking about debt and money here. I'm in debt with no plan to get out is one. Second thing is I have a plan for paying off the debt, or paying off the debt and putting money into savings, and I have 6 months of living expenses and savings for emergencies. What would you say?
I don't have any debt either, but we did a thing because I've got 2 young kids and my husband works as a postman as well. And we had a thing where we lived in London for 15 years. So we sort of almost upscaled to live in London, and then when we knew the house was worth a certain amount, we then sold it and moved out of London.
Oh, good.
So we did it in a particular way of knowing that we then wouldn't have debts. So in terms of management, so we don't have any debt, but in terms of management of funds, it's sort of quite different because I guess it's divided between me and my kids as well, in terms of how my money is planned, because they're just really expensive. But yeah.
I've heard that children are expensive. and my husband would probably say, so is our spouses.
Well, I guess that's it, because everybody has different, areas they sort of put money towards, but I think it's almost that in terms of living costs, it's your overall expectation, isn't it, in terms of what you want.
And goals.
Yeah.
Like,
Values.
Yeah,
values and
yeah.
goals. Well, this whole thing is about values, really. I mean, essentially like how we're living our lives as also what, they're all different artists, and it all is based on in how we live our lives, like what our goals are, intentions, who we are, what kind of work we're making, how we want to bring it out into the world. These are all tangents. Well, how should I answer this? Which one should I tick off for the survey? Should I do 3?
Maybe we should do 3.
All right, so now,
Somewhere in between.
now everybody can take this themselves, the survey. Survey says, so then what happens is that it goes into these columns, and then we go and look at these stories, and this website's just really getting off the ground, And if we go to these stories then, and because the internet is very slow here, unfortunately, I can't, oh, there's a lot here, look at that. Woo! I'd love to hear, oh my God, these are amazing. What?
Being comfortable saying that.
Right, isn't that cool? So these are stories, and it's just unfortunate because there's all different voices here, right? People are able to talk about money here in different ways.
Winning pricing based on artists.
Is that cool?
Useful.
Yeah.
Very useful. So now all of you can go and look at this.
Yeah.
I mean, we could spend hours on this. All right, so let's go to the last, and then we'll take a break after this. And I'm sorry I'm going over a little time. Is that all right? Everybody okay? But I'm going to finish the survey. Okay, ready?
No one follows me.
Oh, that's so sad.
Communicating and connecting. Are we doing okay on time?
I'm just checking. So, well, we'll just have a break when we've done this, shall we? And then carry on.
Is that all right with you? Can we answer like a few more questions?
Yeah.
I think this is so fun. Okay, community connecting. No one follows my work. Oh! I have a following of people who happen to encounter my work. Fabulous. I intentionally cultivate specific audiences relevant to my work, and I connect my audiences to broader issues and partners, building conversations beyond my artwork. What do you think?
It was 3, starting to think about 4.
Yeah, that's what's good about this survey. I've said this before, is that it really prompts you to think about what are the possibilities.
Yeah.
So good. 3, what do you think? Jump in.
2, but I want to do 4.
Good.
I think this is obviously geared towards sort of social media, perhaps, in terms of how you sort of follow
Not necessarily.
I just think the importance of knowing your audience is just really key.
It is.
In terms of how you...
Very important.
But yeah, so I think the point about connecting to audiences is probably the most useful in terms of that scope and making people aware of your work.
It's extremely important, and today in the second half, how much time do we have into the second half?
So we've got until 12:30 basically.
Okay, I'm going to go over
There's a
that.
shift. I don't know if you got my email this morning.
Yeah.
So we're going to have a round table around about 12:30. This is a smaller group of us, and anyone that can join
It's
is
lovely.
invited to the panel will come along. So yeah.
So I'm going to give him, thank you, I'm going to give a marathon run, essentially, from after the break until 12:30 of going over goals, cultivating opportunities, and audience building, and they're all connected. What do you think?
Definitely 2. Although happened is not right because I made them. Look at it.
Very
So I
good.
think I intentionally
So you
cultivate
cultivate.
audiences, and I try to connect my audiences to broader issues and partners. Like I do life drawing for women, and I
No,
try
you
to...
two have to talk.
We need to talk. We need to hang out. I try to connect them to things like there's an amazing documentary that came out about body image and mass media by a friend of a friend, and I've been trying to go on and on about that. It's linked to that. Interesting.
Oh, that's interesting. How so?
So I met with a lady who's running a company called Empower Education, and it's all about mindfulness and about being aware of body issues and mindful issues.
Amazing.
That's good.
There's a film for you called The Illusionists, which is all about body image and how globalization of advertising has meant that we all feel like we need to be a certain body image, and it shows you that big companies will make you insecure no matter what your body shape is.
Really? Well,
Yeah,
I
so
don't like that.
The same company that owns Weight Watchers also owns like Burger King. And the same company that sells skin whitening products to women in India sells fake tan to us. The same company. And that really got to me. So it doesn't matter what you look like, they will find something to make you insecure about and they'll sell it to you. So the documentary isn't saying don't buy products, it's just saying be aware of when you want a nice product or when you're kind of being made to feel like you're rubbish when you should have a product.
Terrible.
Just being played by some
Yes. Yes. So I read this documentary.
Lisa?
No one follows my work. Well, that's going to change today.
That is going to change, and especially after you met Eva, it's going to definitely change. I have a feeling. Can you say maybe 3, because you cultivate audiences with your profession?
Professionally, yeah.
I'm going to do 3.
Yay.
All right, let's go to the next one. No one presents my work. I mean, the first ones are so depressing. But it's, you know what's good about that is working against it. I present my work when opportunities come to me, whether or not the presenter understands my work in my community. I seek out opportunities to present my work and educate presenters about my art in my community, and I regularly present my work, working consciously within existing presentation systems and creating new ones. What do you think?
3.
3.
Better at one side of things than the other, so the storytelling side of 3. My own art.
Right?
So for me, my background is as an artist, but also as a gallery deputy director in Nottingham. So it's sort of like both sides. But the thing for me almost is like, how do you determine success? Like,
Correct.
Like, where are your goals? So like
Correct.
in terms of how many people follow you, or whether you want to present your work, that might not necessarily be your end goal. Or,
Correct.
You know, so I think it's like, obviously it's personal to everybody.
And should I interrupt? I'm sorry to interrupt. This assessment is usually personal, it's individual.
Yeah.
So, but I wanted to go through it for these purposes today as a group. I hope you don't mind.
Oh yeah, no. I just think it's interesting because it makes you feel like there's certain avenues that you go down. But for me, it's almost like trying to pick up with my own work, given other obstacles. Obstacles being my children. But I think no, that's like wrong thing to say. But I think it's so in terms of presenting my work, I go for like when opportunities are available. So
Would you say number 3 then?
Yeah.
Okay. Eva, what do you think?
I'm either 3 or 4. I've been a bit lazy about presenting my work and seeking out opportunities.
Well, there's no one is saying, Eva, today you have to present your work. It's up to you. So the lazy part, maybe you're just making different choices. I think that's a big negative. You know.
I think I regularly present my work.
I actually think that you're not a lazy person. Something gives me that feeling. What do you think, Lisa?
I think I could say number 3.
Good. I'm going to take that off as a general. Okay, here's that depressing story part. I have no partners. I'm so sad reading that. I feel like, oh.
That's the guy who applied to you for that funding, who said about the crushing loneliness.
Say again?
The guy who applied to you for the funding, the crushing loneliness.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sad. I have no partners. I have a small circle of local partners. I communicate with them sporadically. Or I cultivate organizations and individuals as partners, regularly sharing my work and mission with current and potential partners. Or I connect with other partners to strong partners. What do you think? Lisa, out of the gate.
I suppose 2. And also professionally. What does number 4 mean? I connect other artists to strong partners. And we've done that this time professionally, so 2 for sure.
What do you all think? Debs? No, I'm not going to go on the road this time.
Yeah, one morning was all about cultivating really strong partnerships.
Good!
So I'm going to go 4. Yeah.
Alan?
2.
2.
I'd say 3 and 4.
Eva?
2 or 3.
How should I take this off? This is like, now I'm completely stumped by the crowd here. What do you think?
It could be a 3 because we're all here, we're cultivating
Could you, oh, that's a good, Eva, amazing. I like that word cultivate a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, I cannot overcome the assumptions people make about my work because of my cultural background, race, class, gender, and/or sexual orientation. I struggle to communicate with biased partners and structures. I choose my partners consciously and communicate clearly to ensure my work is seen on its own terms. I confront and dismantle the biases artists face. What do you think? I'll just say, for me, it's between 3 and 4.
I think it's 3 and 4, but maybe I'm in the privileged position of not having had to struggle.
I'm glad you recognize that, hopefully, and I
It's not
hear that
because
you're
I've
sharing that
overcome.
privilege.
Yeah.
You're sharing that privilege, right?
I think I feel the same as you. Don't feel any particular bias holding me back.
Okay.
I think I confront it on behalf of others.
Yeah.
But yeah, same.
Ally?
I think to be the same. But I do think like it's partly like you say because maybe we are privileged where we are and Nottingham is quite a open
Yes.
city and stuff. Like if I lived where I grew up, I think it could be warm.
Yeah, that's really true. That often
Yeah.
comes up with me coming from St Helens, like quite a working class background, and nobody went to university and things like that. So, and the fact that I moved to London, everybody thought I was an absolute success, even though nobody knew what I was doing.
See, that's interesting.
But then not that. But again, I do feel privileged. But it's that thing that I feel quite proud of what I've done as well. So.
Can we say 3?
Yeah.
You know what, I had to say too, that what you just mentioned too is there's a big difference between perception and reality.
Yeah.
That on the outside people perceive us in one way, but really the reality is usually very different. Or at least different than how we feel. All right, I know it's going to bounce, I can feel it. Okay, I have no language to describe my work and mission. I reluctantly talk and write. I knew it.
It's in the right place, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
on top of the
it's just
screen,
the way
it's
it's
just clicked something, that's all.
So it's gone.
Wait, are we?
So it's
Am I in
the top
the same
one
place?
there.
Yeah.
I have no language. Top.
Oh, why is that checked off? No. All right.
It'll change.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll just leave it. I have no language to describe my work and mission. I reluctantly talk and write about my work when it's required to. I cultivate language about my work, my mission. I connect my practice to larger conversations with language relevant to other sectors and communities. Please ignore that being checked off. I have no idea why that did. All right. What do you think?
I think mine's 3, but like I was saying earlier, I find certain methods of communication better than others. So like I started a blog and I'm writing about my work that way, and I feel like I am quite good at articulating what I want to say when I write it down, but actually speaking about stuff I find a lot harder.
Okay, what do you think?
Yeah, I think I'm between 2 and 3 in that I'm trying to develop confidence in myself and in what I do in order to impart that to others and choose the right words. And it can be really hard.
Yeah. No, I'm the same. But it's funny because at the gallery we've recently set up a group that's like an arts writing group.
Good.
To sort of support and develop
Good.
writers both in a journalistic way but also using text and narrative and visual material. And it's opened up a bit of a wider debate around how art issues language, which is really interesting. Yeah. But I think, I feel the same. I feel like there's lots I could learn by writing about the way I write, and it's made me sort of really analyse the way I write as well by doing this group. Because then you sort of think the different ways. Anyway, so
Talking about the positive language yesterday, no coulds, woulds and shoulds, and really being positive.
Yeah, but it's almost that thing of not being too aware of your boundaries, because I think it really creates that barrier as well, you know, because this has come up quite a bit in the group where people have said, oh, well, you know, I've not got a background in English language or literature, and therefore, like, and it's that thing of going, you know, there's that idea of conversational writing and transcript, you know, from the idea of how you relay stuff that might be more accessible to other people, and, you know.
Well, it's interesting, I'm very insecure about writing, and a very good friend of mine said, you know, just to jump in, first of all, and then second of all, conversational writing, as you're saying, has relevance. It doesn't have to be scholarly.
Yeah.
We don't have to feel like we have to jump up to here in order to do something.
Yeah.
All right. What do you think? Would you say 3?
Cultivate language at my work. I would say 3. And I'm a writer and an academic, and I write a lot, but I don't write enough about my work, and that's really interesting. It's so much easier to write about anything else than about my art.
I know, it's the hardest thing.
Interesting, right?
Very.
Yeah. And I want to write more about it. So I'm like, come on, people are like, come on, you're a writer, write some stuff about your art, put on your website. I'm like, isn't that interesting? Really hard to do.
And you, Lisa?
So I for other people, I cultivate language about their work, their mission and their projects, and I reluctantly talk and write about my own work.
So this maybe is a way of big signal to be able to do that for yourself. A reminder. All right, shall we move on? We've got 2 more.
Yeah.
I don't communicate about my art. That's what you were just saying. I communicate with people who already know my work, mostly around events and projects. I communicate regularly with a wide circle of audience and partners, bringing them close to my process. With every project event, I consciously expand my circle, connecting new audiences, partners to work. What do you think?
I'm hoping to do 3 through my blog.
You all? 3? Could you say 3?
Yeah, towards 3.
See, I know Lisa was saying it's not within a professional context, I'd say 4, because that's sort of part of my job to do it. But then, as an artist who's not currently practicing but would like to, it's like I don't communicate about my... But then...
Not yet.
No.
Could you see number 3 or number 4 as a goal for you?
Yeah.
All right, what do you think?
I want to be 2, but I think in practice I'm more. I mean, I want to be 3, and in practice I'm more 2. I like to think I do 3, but I don't think I do.
One more, and then we get to the whole thing. All right, I have to choose between my community and what I consider my art world. Oh God, good job, yeah. I move back and forth between my community and my art world. I create connections between my community and my art community, challenging barriers and assumptions, or I redefine the place of art in my community, creating new structures and systems for meaningful engagement. What do you think?
Well, I'd say the last one in terms of what I'm doing at the gallery.
Yeah.
And I think there's this sense of, I think this is where the boundaries blur, because I feel really immersed in it, and I think you have to be. So in terms of that distinction between my community and my community is my art, so with my family and everything, you know, that's because it's what I do and it's what drives me.
I mean, I think it's intertwined. And before you came here, I emphasized that I don't believe there are any divisions, and that we were talking about Allie and her life and her work, and to me it's just holistic. It's all connected. All right, others. Allie, what's your feeling?
I'm thinking 3.
All right, Eva?
I wonder if it's 2 or 3. And create connections between my community and my art community. I think I do a little bit.
Debs?
Yeah, I'm between 2 and 3.
Lisa?
I'm 2.
All right, I'm going to take off 3 for the majority, hoping that you can get to 3. And now we're going to go there. Wow, we're ArtistsThrive, and then for that, there are a lot of stories here. So there's all different stories that pop up for different, and then you can look at these later. And then what you can do is, if you take this, you can click and have your own bookmark. And then what it does too is it takes you to resources which are tremendous. Let's see, hold on a second. Oh, that is really bad here. It's struggling. What's great is I'm going to provide everybody a resource guide, as I mentioned yesterday. But what's really good is that there is a few resources here that you can. It's probably not going to take me here, but
Do you want
probably
to
by
go
the
online data?
Say again.
Do you want to link to my
No, don't worry. It's just, and we're gonna have a break. But anyway, you can see at the top that there are resources here that you can click onto, and community, and you can also go to all the stories. But I think that I'm so grateful that we all went through this also as a warm-up, but also to go over these ideas, and I'm hoping that all of you feel stronger from this to clarify who you are as artists, essentially.
Okay, that's really helpful process.
Oh, good. Well, shall we take a break? Thank you.